Perfect. Welcome to Grit Meets Growth. Today we are joined by Mike Carucci of Bloomin Blinds, a business specialized in custom window treatments, repairs, and more. Known for bringing the showroom right to your living rooms, Mike has built a business focused on quality and convenience. Welcome, Mike. It's a privilege to have you on our show, and I know that everyone that's watching will get a lot of insights from you as well as your business. So thanks a lot for doing this, and lovely to have this conversation with you.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity and really looking forward to it. Thank you.
For sure. Okay, so we'll then go deep dive into the questions and we'll get to know all those insights from you. So, the first question that I have, which is like starting a business, which is let's say focused on window repair as a service, is not a typical sort of a business that everyone starts with. So, when you choose this business, how did you choose it and why did you choose it?
Sure. Yeah, my journey, I think, is, I'm 45, so, I've had lots of different lives and occupations. Um, and really, my journey to business ownership was one where I just decided that kind of the corporate life and working for other folks just wasn't working out for me. I wasn't achieving the level of fulfillment that I really was looking for. And after a really hard look at, what were those things that were, what were those factors that were leaving me dissatisfied at the end of a work day, at the end of a work week, despite, making a reasonable salary and seeing increases and those kinds of things that, you would think should or could lead to some additional satisfaction. And I believe there's literature out there to show that, money doesn't do it. So I said, you know what? One of the things that I really think I want to do is I want to be the boss. I want to be calling the shots. I want to have some more autonomy to do some of the things and to operate in some of the ways that I think, from what I've learned, are better. And I wanted that freedom. So I started working with a franchise consultant. And really, that was serendipitous. Somebody reached out to me at the right time and said, hey, it looks like you're looking for businesses or interested in business. So do you ever think about franchises? And would you like to work with a consultant? And for me, that was tremendously helpful. Really, when I started looking at the next step, franchising was something that was in the back of my head, but I just didn't know too much about it. And it's such a big world. It's such a broad world, and there's something like 25, at least in the U.S., there is something like 2,500 qualified franchises. Well, if you were going to enter into that world, it's super helpful to have somebody who can kind of guide you through some of the better opportunities and to help you avoid some of the ones that aren't so great. Not all players in the game are the kind of people you'd want to build a business relationship with. So I worked with a great franchise consultant. His name is Chris Hilgers. He's out of Colorado, and he really listened to me, listened to my background, my interests, and then we started evaluating opportunities. And to be fair, my background is really healthcare, believe it or not. The majority of my career was working in a variety of different roles in the healthcare space. So we started looking at those first, CrossFit gyms and massage and stretch lab type places, and just none of those just really fit for a variety of reasons. And one of them, also kind of significant, is the cost, the initial startup costs to enter in some of those more brick and mortar type opportunities are more significant. And then I started doing my own research, and we kind of talked a little bit about, hey, I'm relatively handy, and I have some experience working with my brother, who's a contractor. So, I have done some things. And we said, well, how about home improvement and home services, I should say. And that's when Bloomin Blinds kind of came up. And I have to say, um, they're just a great company. And I really like, for me, in order to do business with someone, I needed to work with somebody with a lot of integrity, people I could trust. And I really feel like the brothers and the family who own Bloomin Blinds are those kind of people. And also their model makes sense. You brought up repairs. That's the initial question you had. Window covering repairs. How do you decide that you want to go in and work on people's blinds? Um, Well, it's a part of the business model for Bloomin Blinds, and it's one of the things that's a differentiator for us. We're willing to help you keep those treatments, those blinds, those shades running and operating in your window just a little bit longer. We recognize that these are, pricey purchases, and if you're happy with what you have, darn it, you should be able to have it for as long as you can. So we're happy to provide that service. But it's also an opportunity for us to get into to meet a customer and to have that first good experience. And with the goal that, down the road, should they need a new product or another type of service, they think of us. So again, kudos to the brothers for creating kind of a system, which is, again, one of the things that you need to buy into if you're going to buy a franchise. The system has to make sense and you have to be willing to follow it. And I have to say they put together both a company with integrity that's responsive to its franchisees, but also one that I think really focuses on delivering what the customer wants and needs, and to create longitudinal, long-term, relationships.
That's great, right? Like all of the pointers that you mentioned, which is, and I guess that holds it true for a lot of businesses where people are looking to buy a franchisee because like I've seen people getting into franchises that shouldn't that don't really make sense because like you mentioned, right? Like there's a big number of franchises that are available in the US, and obviously there are a lot more that are available throughout the world. So it's very important to choose the right partners because you're not just buying, let's say, a business, but you're buying a particular name, and therefore how people perceive that name is really going to matter because even if you do a great work but that name is not like people don't really trust that name, I don't think they'll go for those services. And when it comes to service business more than any other business, I guess that's the most crucial element, which is the integrity or which is the name, right? So that makes complete sort of sense. And another thing I guess our viewers can learn here is it really doesn't matter that you have to have a lot of experience in any industry that you go in. It's more about your willingness to learn, your willingness to try new things, put in those sort of efforts because I can imagine that it would have taken more efforts for like someone who already was in that sort of a business and wanted to start something. So if you have that willingness of doing that work, putting in those hours and making it count, I guess every business is possible.
It certainly can be. Yeah, I think you have, like you're saying, you have to take a careful accounting of what, kind of your skill set is and what you're good at, and really think about, what is the opportunity require. Just because something looks like a great opportunity, is it a good fit for you? Um, yeah, yeah. So I think a big part of considering going into business, buying into a franchise, is really being in a headspace to be honest with yourself. Because just because an opportunity is financially attractive doesn't mean you're the person to operate it or to jump into it. So I think you can't be greedy. I think you really got to know also what you like. For me, I'm the owner operator right now. It's a company of a franchise location of one. So I do it all, other than, of course, the services that Bloomin provides, which thank God they do. The systems and the things that I'm able to use just work, and I didn't have to think about them. They showed me how to use it. I plug in, and things work. I think another huge benefit for us, which a lot of mom and pop shops, just can't really afford, is a call center. And I got to tell you, I get multiple unsolicited compliments for our call center out of Dallas. And they are the front door to my business. Most folks still have to pick up a phone to kind of, hey, let's schedule the appointment. Let me tell you what I need. You still need that human interaction. And again, Bloomin has done a great job of hiring folks who created a great initial experience. So again, that's another thing that because I'm a part of a franchise, it just works and I don't have to worry about it. And sure, I pay for it, but it's worth every penny. It allows me to focus more when I'm in the home with a customer on that experience. I don't have to worry about answering my phone immediately because those calls aren't coming to me. They're going to that call center. So again, when you start to think about wow, why own a franchise, you could do this on your own. You don't need them. It becomes a question of how successful will you be and how differentiated will you be to your competition? And can you compete right out of the gate? And often with the right franchise and the right franchisee, you can be competitive right out of the gate and just have a higher likelihood of being successful.
Makes complete sense. Cool. So since we talked about the business, how to choose it, but again, right, like every business will come with its own challenges. So, window repair service, right, seems like a hands-on competitive industry. What's the biggest challenge you have faced running the business, and how did you overcome it?
Sure. I don't think I appreciated. So, I had the experience working with my brother and kind of the installation and, where the kind of the hands-on, more mechanical side of working around windows and with windows and window coverings and installing new product, which, is something that Bloomin does. It's the repairs and the new product. So we basically do it all. I think the biggest challenge, and I appreciate, really experienced sales folks, really getting into the details of being able to design and fit a window covering for a particular situation. There are really some very particular ins and outs of the window coverings themselves, and the devil is in the details. Ultimately, this is a finished product. This is a finished look. This is on the wall for everybody to see. It's on the window for everybody to see. So it's got to look right. It's got to fit right. And it has to do all the things that the customer is hoping and looking for. And I think really understanding and learning the ins and outs of the products and the vendors that we work with so that we're picking that right vendor, that right product, that right shade, that right solution based on what the customer is telling you is super important because I got to tell you, one of the best parts of this job that you don't get, I think, as frequently in the corporate world or in lots of places is that when it's done and a customer walks into that room and sees that shade or that shutter or that blind for the first time, and they have that sincere moment of, oh, I really like that. That is so rewarding. I mean, that in a lot of ways feels better than getting that final check or closing the deal. You really are in the service business here. And I think you really need to be smart and recognize that. Are you somebody who gets that warm and fuzzy feeling, that sense of accomplishment after you've done something, and when you've whoever you did the work for, if they're happy and they kind of give you that, thank you. Hopefully that's something that also feels like it's part of the payout because for me it's one of the best parts of the job as well.
Makes complete sense. And right, like at the end of the day, when it comes to service businesses, I guess the value that you give is obviously important, but how you make your customer feels is at times even more important. And since it's a hands-on job, you will directly get your feedback. I don't really think that you need a feedback. You don't even need to ask because people will directly let you know that okay, this is something they felt good about, this is something that they didn't, or something of that sort. So you directly get those sort of a feedback. But understanding and caring about your customer, I guess, is even more important when it comes to service business, for that matter.
Yeah, no, for sure. My wife and I bought a home a few years ago, and I think everybody's had an experience of calling for some type of service to come into the home. And when I really put myself in that shoe, because I've been that consumer, it really is, what do I really want? So, of course, you want somebody that's competent and has reasonable pricing, right? I get it. But that's just base level. For me, I really think it is what you said, that interaction. I mean, the two tenants I strive to meet for my particular location, in addition to all the things that Bloomin really kind of makes us commit to, is I want to be friendly and I want to be professional. And what does that mean? Well, I don't want to be that grumpy guy that shows up at the door and barely makes eye contact and it just makes you feel awkward. That's not fun. I didn't enjoy it when those folks came in. I'll never be that person, nor as we grow will anybody I employ be that person. I think professional is important. If somebody calls you, you call them back. I can't tell you how many times I hear from customers, oh, yeah, I called so and so and they just didn't get back to me in a week, 2 weeks, or they never return a phone call. it surprises me how many people, how often I hear things like that. I think professionalism is important too. Do you enter the home and take care of it? Are you clean? Are you cleaning up after everything? Are you pointing out little issues or something that needs to be fixed? Do you have the customer's best interest in mind, as any quote unquote professional should have in whatever field that they're in? So those are the things that I think I cared about, as a homeowner and as somebody bringing somebody into my home. And I think, hopefully those are things that will continue to resonate with folks. And it seems to thus far. I mean, we've been open since April of this year, so I should say I'm a newer franchisee, and we're close to 55-star Google reviews, and I never thought, I would. I'm proud of those, and I'm surprised,
Yeah,
but it's to be able every so often when you get a new one and then you go back and you see some of the reviews people have left. It's kind of that public report card, but it's also a reminder to me that we're doing good work and people are responding and they're showing their appreciation. And now there's some social proof out there as well for the business. So anyways, all of that I think becomes really important. And again, you're right, how you make people feel, and do you make life easier? They're coming to you because they have a problem that they want solved. Make it easy for people. Life's busy, people are stressed. Be pleasant, and just make the experience good.
makes complete sense. Uh, since we talked about the business, we talked about the challenges, let's talk about the main thing, which is the revenue. What are let's say, when it comes to revenue, like what are the channels that are driving in this sort of revenue for you? Like, obviously, we're not talking about numbers, but we just want to understand so that someone who wants to start his business knows that these are the avenues he needs to focus on to bring new business. So, obviously, I know that BNI is a part of it, and I'll talk about that in the next question. But
Sure.
at an overall level, what are those channels which is both offline and online? And if you can just divide it and let us know that, okay, you get, let's say, 30% of the business from this and the rest from the others.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think I'm still new enough in the business that we're evaluating the best marketing and advertising channels. I will tell you, um, online is where it's at. I mean, as far as the percentage of folks who, when we check and ask, how did you find us? How did you hear about us? Especially as a new business, right, where I don't have a large network of prior customers that I can, have a large referral network, which again is the goal for everybody, right? I mean, referrals are the best, the cheapest, but you gotta be in business long enough to get to that point, and that's the
So,
challenge. And of course, do good work to have people want to refer you. Um, so I think you have to have a great online strategy. And the longer I'm in this business, I really feel like I keep coming back to, focusing more dollars, to online, to digital. And you really have to work with a competent company. You have to work with folks like yourself who understand how to maximize this and are keeping an eye on what the ROI is, and how can we continue to find ways to reduce that cost for qualified leads. Because if you're doing it right, you can show the return on investment. It's also so trackable, which is valuable. So I can, after running a campaign for a while, folks like yourself can kind of say, hey, look, so for every X dollar you spend, it's leading to Y. Oh, I mean, in business, when you can have situations that you can, kind of predictably, lay that out, well, that's wonderful. Then
yeah,
I can identify how much I should be spending, and kind of what that return is, and it reduces that fear, that risk. Whereas, you do print and other things, I just haven't found them as successful to date. In my area, for my business, I haven't found print super successful. I also think for me, I've started to spend more time really working to get to know real estate agents. I, again, not have coming from the real estate world, learned about things called caravans, kind of local meetings of agents, who are selling homes in a particular geographic area. And going to those is something that I would recommend for anybody who's doing home services. It's a great opportunity to capture and meet real estate agents who are often very busy for very good reasons and are out and about and not in an office, and are busy answering their phone with their customers. So to go to something where you can meet on a weekly basis, I think is also helpful. So for me, it's really get out, network, meet people, get them to know you a little bit, and then digital are really the two main avenues that I'm focusing on. I think the next thing I'm also going to look at, I've heard some good things about, are home shows, um, but that's a little bit more of a buy-in because you really want to present yourself well. So there's a variety of displays and other things that you have to buy in order to really present well at a home show. But that's an avenue I'm looking at exploring more next year. But for sure, it seems like I keep coming back to digital and then get out and meet people locally.
Yeah. Cool. So since obviously both are BNI members, I don't think this conversation can go without talking about BNI. Um, so if for the folks, if you can just give a brief about what BNI is, because they can just know about that, and then what sort of a role has BNI played in your journey?
Sure. So BNI is the largest business networking, organization in the world. I've been around for something like 40 years. Um, and really it's organized in regions and chapters. So you can identify a chapter around you that you want to join. And really, the premise of BNI is givers gain. And the idea is that by coming together in a group with kind of a set of kind of rules and obligations, and it does come with rules and obligations, but anything worth doing should and does. Um, the goal is that you create a referral group, and it's people who are vetted, people that you get to become comfortable with, get to become friends with often. And all of a sudden, when I go into a home, I don't just go in offering my service, but I have the ability to refer to an accountant, a mortgage person, a great painter, a great tile guy, life insurance, attorneys. So all of a sudden, I offer these additional resources and the ability to refer qualified, good people to also help out that homeowner, which is another benefit and value in this day and age. It requires there are a variety of requirements of things that you need to do in order to be a part of BNI and to stay a member in good standing. But they're worth it, and there are things that help you be a better business person in general. The one other thing I'd say about BNI, well, in the short term, the benefit to my business has been business. I've even though I've only been a part of BNI for about 7 months, I've done tens of thousands of dollars already in business, and a good chunk of that have come from people in my chapter, believe it or not. My chapter members refer themselves to me to be my customers, and that's a real honor and a privilege. I would say that if you're with BNI, one of the things you want to think about is that it's the long game. You're not going into it for short-term success. I've been somewhat fortunate to do some business within the chapter pretty early on. But in general, you're doing this because this is going to start to pay off in years 2, 3, and 4. And actually, the CPA in our chapter, who is now my CPA for the business, showed a great graph of the years he's been in BNI and kind of the number of referrals he's received, and it's impressive. I mean, the first year and a half, not too many, but years 2, 3, 4. I mean, you can see he's getting almost over 100 referrals at this point to his business well over, I think getting close to 200 at this point, and he's been in BNI, 5, 6 years. So,
That's cool.
yeah, so it's both a great opportunity to stay focused on your business, to network, and to be a part of a kind of a group who's also there to help support you, and that you can also rely on and ask questions to. So I think it's really valuable. You just got to find a chapter that works for you, and I would say you got to feel comfortable there. That's the other thing that's really important, because you're going to meet with these people, either see them virtually once a week, or you're going to see them in person once a week. So it's got to be a group of people that you don't mind interacting with.
For sure. No, that's even that's the same sort of a viewpoint that I have. Like it's as I mentioned, it's been 6 months for me in the journey, and it's not just about getting business, but at the same time, you gotta get to learn a lot, right? Like the processes that they have, as you mentioned. I guess at the core of BNI, those processes makes BNI what it is, and since they follow them to the core, people are able to get that sort of a value. I don't think like if those processes were not like if those processes were not there, I don't think getting in that value is possible. Initially, it feels like a burden that why are these processes there? Why I have to wake up 7 in the morning, be dressed up, and be in a meeting? But then when you do that, and when you see the type of rewards that people are getting, then it completely sort of makes sense.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
for sure.
cool. We talked about marketing, we talked about um, challenges. I would like to know, like, what sort of an advice would you like to give anyone who is looking to start a business, especially in home services? Yeah, like, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, God, I would say go get a franchise, buy a franchise. Um, I think you want to really understand who you are, right? So part of, again, it goes back to understand your motivation. Sure, you got to understand your capital, and kind of your runway and all that stuff, right? That's kind of foundational, but you're going to do that for any business. Um, I think you really want to think about, do you want to be that solo by yourself person starting from scratch? Or do you also want to be a part of a community? One of the things that has been awesome, and I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but it's surprising that I love the other franchisees I've met in Bloomin Blinds, and that having a community of folks that you can also rely on who are in the same franchise and or the same business where you can really talk specifics, and they understand, and you can rely on them and ask them for help, and learn from them. The other franchisees in Bloomin have been to almost to a person awesome people, and some of them are doing really really well. And it's really helpful to be able to reach out to those folks. And I've never had one franchisee not be willing to chat with me. So I think having that community for me is helpful. I always liked teams, to have a group of folks that you can rely on when you need to. So I think about, what are the environments that you've worked in that you enjoy? What are the things that you like doing? Again, I enjoy getting that little, whatever, dopamine, endorphin rush after somebody says, I'm really happy. Like as someone who's a bit of a people pleaser, that to me is the part that pays out the most. Well, know that about yourself. And are you going to be in a business where you're going to have those kinds of transactions and opportunities to get that need fulfilled? So I think a real careful accounting of yourself and what the day-to-day life of that business, that opportunity, what's that going to be like, is important, because that's going to be your life and you are going to live it. And starting a business is not a guarantee of success. So, how are you going to be able to get out there and really grind and try to grow this thing, whatever it is that you choose? And it's going to be hard no matter what you choose. So, choose something that is also going to suit you and give you those things that you need beyond just success and revenue. Will you be in a system, in a situation that helps smooth out some of the rough spots that are just going to be there as a part of starting a business? And for me, while I joined a franchise, there's no other franchisee in San Diego County where I'm located. So it could feel very isolating if I didn't have those folks that I could call regionally, nationally, and reach out and say, hey John, uh, how are you doing with this? How did you deal with this? And I'll be honest with you, I've even had franchisees fly out to help me on a particular job if they have some additional experience, or just willing to offer a hand. I mean, people have flown to San Diego to help me out. I
Right.
can't say enough about that. So if I were doing this by myself, it'd be very different. It'd be much harder. Just the burden, the psychological burden would be that much more. But because I'm a part of both a system that works, but also people who are, to a person have been really wonderful. that's been a benefit to me. So I would say know thyself first before you jump into an opportunity, and be very mindful about what you want to get out of it and what the day-to-day life is. And then, of course, you'll look at all the financials and all that stuff, no matter what it is. But just find yourself in the right opportunity.
That's some great advice. I can totally relate to some of the pointers, and I can understand that there can be, like, I guess one of the biggest things that said, which you have said multiple times, is you need to understand yourself, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, what you like, and then sort of figure something out that resonates with that. Because I have seen people start businesses that they shouldn't really start, because once they start, they're like, it feels like a job to them, which is not great. So yeah, like understanding yourself is really important, right? Like for me, I started right after college. I went into marketing. It's been 6 years for me in the field. I still love it. I still get to learn every day. See, it's not been like a 20-year sort of a period for me, but even 6 years at times in this era feels like a lot. So yeah, I totally resonate when you say that you need to understand yourself and definitely do something that you like. Otherwise, it will start. You will be able to do that for a very short time, is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a very interesting sort of a part of the podcast, which is the end, towards the end, where we basically ask the guest to ask a question for the next guest. So, the first sort of thing that I'll do is I'll ask a question that the last guest asked, which is for you, and then obviously I'll ask one that we will ask the next one. So yeah. So the question that I have is, if you're looking to start a business, what kind of things are you looking for that are going to tell you, is this a good idea to start this business or this is a bad idea?
What are the things that I would look at to tell me whether it's a good idea or a bad idea?
Yeah.
Um, Good question. Good question. Well, I think, well, I'll stay with the franchise kind of world, since that's kind of what I've evaluated, the most. Um, I think you want to um, have the opportunity, if you're evaluating a franchise in particular. So you want to be able to speak to other franchisees one on one without anybody from the corporate office there. They should be able to give you a name, like three names, or give you a list and say, hey, you can pick these people. You can feel free to give them a call, and just be able to have those very frank conversations. And you should be able to get a pretty good sense from those people, kind of what it's like, to be able to ask the questions that you really want to ask. I did that with Bloomin, and it was really helpful to hear from multiple folks, um, that hey, this was a good decision. I think also, look at the FDD document that every franchise has to disclose. I will tell you that I felt that, and it kind of carried over to the company. The FDD that franchise that Bloomin provides has some of the most detailed item 19, which is where the financials are kind of discussed, that I saw of any franchise. And it just told me that they had the integrity to kind of try to show you their cards early on. Hey, this is what it looks like. It wasn't pulling teeth. They tried to give you, more information, I would say, than I saw in other places. And that level of transparency and integrity is actually how the company runs. Um, the other thing I would say is kind of look at the market a little bit. Get as much data as you can. Drive around. If it's a home service business, call for some quotes. I mean, you hate to waste people's time, but pretend. If you're going to do window coverings, have two or three local, highly rated window coverings companies come out and kind of see what their shtick is like. That'll really give you a sense as to, if these are what the successful people in your area are doing, you're going to have to do something similar. And did that feel good? Could you see yourself doing that? So role play it a little bit, and pretend, and have people come out and see what that's like. Um, I would say those things. I would say the things that you want to avoid are just looking at revenue or something that seems cool, something that seems trendy. I also think, be careful. Not every new thing that comes out is gonna hit. So sometimes going with something that's a little bit more established, a little more established market, I think is also, don't be afraid of, those more quote unquote boring businesses. Don't just look for something new and shiny. I mean, I definitely passed on an opportunity of something that sounded really interesting in the healthcare space, but was just too new. Felt like too much of a gamble for me. So I think also don't just get caught up in a sales pitch. Really think about what it is that you're investing into. In addition to, can you see yourself doing it?
Like a lot of like everything that you mentioned, I guess, is really important. And uh, one of the things that stands out for me is don't go into something that's flashy or something that's just trending, because I guess that's where most of the people make a mistake that, oh, this is something that's going on and I need to just capitalize on that. Like that fear of FOMO comes in and you're like, oh, I have to do this, which is not really the ideal sort of way of doing something, because trends fade away as fast as they come, right? So you're trying to create a business. You're not trying to, let's say, it's not like a fashion sort of a thing that you will just wear something and it will be irrelevant in a, let's say, few months or in a year. It's a business that has to last long, and therefore it's really important that you choose something that you can do for a very long time, uh, apart from anything else. So yeah, I totally agree to that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So the next thing, obviously, as I mentioned, is one question that you would like us to ask the next guest.
Yeah. One that I always think is fun, um, is, what is, since being in business, what is one thing, what's one thing that surprised you about being in business that you wouldn't expect, both good and bad? So what was that thing that you would have never thought to ask that question ahead of time? You would have never thought that it would be either a big benefit. For me, it's that feeling of the customer saying, "Wow, I'm really happy, thank you." Um, but also, hey, what was something that's, wow, you're surprised how hard or how some X is on the bad side. So I think those types of things are also helpful for folks to hear, so that they can ask those questions or think about some of those just unexpected, because so much is just, you can't predict everything or know everything, right? From people who are in business, a good thing that surprised you and a bad thing that surprised you since you've been in business.
Very, very interesting one, right? Like, I really want to know the bad thing, sorry, the good thing that surprised you, in some ways. So yeah, that's something that is noted down, and we'll have it for the next guest. But thanks a lot, Mike, for doing this. Thanks a lot for sharing all those insights. I know that all of these will be really helpful for someone who is looking to start a business, especially into home services or a franchisee model that they try to take. Uh, so yeah, like I guess we are at the end of the session. So thanks a lot for that. Um, and what I will do is I have to, yeah.